Hey Tribe, it's Steph, and we're going to talk a little bit about some standing glute work. So standing glute work is something we see that pops up in our bar classes a lot, and it's typically when we're facing the bar and lifting one leg at a time. So it's unilateral work, which is great to focus on strengthening any imbalances that we have. But a couple things to think about when we're doing this so that we can make sure we are getting the most out of this movement. So standing glute work, we could either have hands on the bar, in that case would be about arm's distance apart, whatever it takes to keep a neutral spine so that I'm not jumping forward or that I'm not too far back. Or I want to stack the forearms and maybe rest the forehead down. And in that case, I would have my feet about underneath my hips and then just staggering them a little bit, adjusting as I lift one leg. So whichever variation you're doing kind of depends on the movement or the variation of standing glute work you're going to do. But we're going to focus on the forearms down position today. So stacking the forearms, resting the forehead, making sure I'm not dumping into this, right? So I still want to have good posture, draw the shoulders back, zip up and engage through the core so that I'm not leaning into the bar. So almost as if I could pull myself off the bar and I still have engagement through my muscles. So maybe just practicing that movement a little bit. So then from there, as I lift one leg, I want to make sure that I'm not opening too far up to the side and that I'm also not moving from the low back. So a lot of times I tend to see people lifting probably a lot higher than they need to or opening up more than they need to because they're focusing on lifting it as high as they can, which isn't always the best or really what we're going for. We're going for keeping the muscles engaged as we move so that we're not just defaulting to our joints or our hypermobility in some cases. So if I am going to lift my leg, I want to make sure that I'm lifting from the glutes, from the core, and then I'm not opening out too much to the side. So essentially, kind of keeping the hips facing down, and then from here, not lifting any higher than my hips. I don't need to lift any higher than my hips, and when I do, you can see that I rotate out, and then I start to dump into my low back. So just lifting here, and then always keeping a soft bend in the standing leg, not locking out the standing knee. Keep that bend, and you're going to engage the muscles even more. Let's say I was just lifting from here. Again, thinking about lifting from the glutes, squeezing from the glutes, instead of just lifting from the low back. You can kind of see the difference of arching and then engaging through the muscles. Then from there, let's say I was going to hold it up. Maybe I find a little movement through the hamstring. Maybe I'm doing some little pulses. Again, not lifting from the low back, lifting from the glute. I could also releve and lift the standing heel. Again, I keep that soft bend in the knee. Maybe I do some connection. So there's a lot of variations here, but I just want to focus on keeping the hips facing down as much as possible, not lifting from the low back, keeping that strong posture through the rest of the spine, drawing the shoulders back, and then obviously doing the same thing on the other side. So when you're doing these movements, think about smaller movements, so not having to go as high or big or wide as you can, smaller controlled movements, and really focusing on the core or the muscle that you're working, whether it's glutes, maybe it is abdominals, maybe it's hamstrings, maybe it's you're going to the side, getting some outer thigh work. So wherever you're focusing, create smaller controlled movements and really focus on a nice neutral posture, keeping a soft bend in the front knee, and really confining those movements down so that you're getting the most out of that time spent in standing glute work at the bar.